All right, so back here on the 1978 Toyota pickup, so I got the rear end back assembled after doing the notch, just so I can check all the dimensions of everything before I played it all in. We're looking pretty good, so got it squashed down about as far as it'll go as far as travel. I still got, about an inch or so here and squashed down. You can see, the shock is just about, just about bottomed out there. So don't want it to squash down any further than that, because then I'll end up messing up those shocks. And so that'll give me plenty of space to put a bump stop or something in there. I haven't plated it yet on the inside. And so, that'll be like another 3/16, because that's how thick the plate is. Still, I got like an inch in here, so there's definitely more than enough room. You can also see that I got total, massive amount of room as far as clearance, front and rear for the rear end. So like, needing to cut that at an angle, I definitely didn't need to do anything more fancy than this. So this should work out just fine. I did get the brackets on the sides fully welded in. You can see some grind marks on there. So what I did is I just tacked on a piece of angle iron across the top, just to make sure that this thing doesn't warp on me. And then I just did it in stages. So like I do, a bead, half a bead on this side, move to the other side, put a bunch of air on it in order to keep it cool. I kept it, just about cool to touch with gloves on. So I didn't get a bunch of heat into it. That's good. So I definitely don't think there was any warpage there. And then I left that angle iron on there for about an hour after it was done cooling off. And so should be perfectly straight. There's no warpage or anything on there, which is good. So yeah, so this looks like this is gonna to get me what I need. One thing that I was looking at was, you can see the height of this rear end past the frame. It's a bunch. So I got to measuring things around, threw a level on it in order to get an idea of how much higher above the existing frame everything is, and it's about 4 inches. So, from a reference mark standpoint, I have these mounts that are on the sides here that I know where that is on the bed. And so that's where those mounts go, is across this cross member here and here. And so now I throw a level across it and threw a tape on there, and to the bed is more like 2 inches. And so, man, I got a bunch of room that I got to make in this bed. So I got to make up, another 2 inches or so in order to allow that rear end to move through its travel. I was hoping to maybe just beat it out with a hammer and, only have to gain like half an inch, maybe an inch with beating on it, but I don't think that's going to cut it. So when I get ready to get mounting this bed on here, I'm going to have to figure out what I want to do as far as making enough room for that rear end to slide up in here. We'll see how much other mess I got for myself with the notch and clearance for tires and everything that I totally thought was going to be a-okay. But, now that I'm looking at this, there's going to be, unfortunately, a bunch of work in order to get that to fit. This beam here is actually higher, so you can see the level ain't touching on that side. So this beam here is higher. Hopefully that thing is not going to be in the way. Hopefully wherever I need to clearance things in order for the rear end is either this little bitty brace that's in the middle that nothing was bolted to. There were no, mounts or anything that was hooked into this. Hopefully I'm just in the field here somewhere. I don't know where it's going to line up and hit or anything, but we'll see. And like I said, you can see some big old dents and dings and all kinds of damage inside of this bed. And so it's not like the bed was in fantastic shape and me pounding on it or bending it or more is going to be a problem. And I'm going to bed line the inside of it anyway. So it's not like it's going to matter a whole lot, but that does definitely mean that I got way more work in order to get this to fit. And then I was also running this thing through the full travel range in order to see how this was shifting left and right, and looking real good. So, at regular ride height, it's, as I was saying before, it's sort of offset to this side a little bit. And then as it pulls in, the frame, the panhard bar pulls that rear end towards the frame, and then it gets it sort of shifted to that side. Going through the full range, it looks like I'm going to have about a total of 1/4 inch left to right. And so, it's going to start out an 1/8 inch over to this side. And then as the panhard bar pulls it, it's going to end up about an 1/8 inch on that side. So that's looking pretty good. I got this spinning around these bars in order to get my pinion angle set up. And, I did have, you see my marks that I have here. As far as centering that axle on the center line, got plenty of room for that. And so even if, where I have this set up right now, even if I need to get that shifted in the wheel well, like, 1/2 inch either direction, I got plenty of space. Like when I was going through the full range of motion, you can see this is as far forward as that it's ever going to be. So, I could move that sucker a bunch forward and it's not going to be interfering with the frame at all. Could also be moving it back a bunch and it's not going to interfere. So should have plenty of adjustment that I'll need here. So the next thing I'll do is get to all that plating that I mentioned last time. So I just broke down some steel, just a pain in the butt. This is angle iron 3/16, and so I just had to cut it on the side. One thing I did is I cut it at an angle, so I already have a chamfer all the way down. So when I go to box that thing in, like I already have a chamfer on one side for where I gotta get the weld bead nice and penetrated into the existing stuff. So got my metal here, and it'll just be a bunch of, that you see me done before. Make a little template out of paper and make it look good and fit up there real nice, and then cut it and burn it in. So I got to get this whole thing disassembled. I definitely don't want to be welding, especially around the shocks and all those bushings and everything. So I've got to take this whole thing apart and then get the box and everything in. After I got it all boxed in, I might try to chuck that bed on here in order to see how much of a mess I got for myself, but we'll get after it. All right, thanks. See you in the next one.